Hi everybody, this is Sandra Hayashi with Fathom Realty coming to you today on this Wednesday for our weekly Lunch and Learn. I am going to talk to you today about working with a realtor. We have been doing this for a little over a month now, and in the month of February we talked about working with the lender and finding your lender. And a couple of weeks ago we started with the working with the realtor program, and got kind of waylaid last week because of the Facebook shutdown kind of thing or whatever, where Wednesday it was out all day long, and so Thursday I went off track and did a live about reverse mortgages, and I'll do more on reverse mortgages later on in the series when I have more information, when I can go into more detail on it. But the last time we talked about working with a realtor, we talked about finding the realtor and about signing the agency agreement with them and what agency is. So today what we're going to talk about is what happens after you've signed on with the realtor and you begin the home search process. That's really the fun part, when you actually go out and start getting to look at homes and go inside of them, because from this point you've probably just been looking at them online and looking there to see what you like. But now we get to actually start looking in the houses. So hi Rita, how are you today? Thanks for joining me. Nice to see you. We're going to talk about finding your home, and more information is on my Facebook, on my website at chesterhomesearch.com. So you can always go there and get information. And I have just downloaded all of the previous videos that I've done into my YouTube channel. So I'm still learning YouTube, guys, and I don't know what my actual YouTube URL is right at the moment, otherwise I'll post it. But once I figure out how to get to my YouTube channel, I'll post it, and then all my videos will be in one place, and you can go back and review them if you had one that you wanted to remember or know more about, such as the documents that you need for the lender, or what the differences on agency and stuff are. They'll all be there in one place, and you can go back and review the videos. But today we're going to talk about what happens once you've found your realtor and you're ready to start looking. All of us as realtors have the ability to set up what's called your individual web portal, where you can they put in your criteria of what you're looking for on a home, and then it sends you regularly, and you can set up the time frame, usually daily or immediately, because the way the market is, homes don't always last that long, especially the good ones, so that you get an email as soon as the new homes come on the market. So it's the best and easiest way to know what's out there, because you have the information just as soon as your realtor does and as soon as anybody else does, by having them set up this web portal for you. So what you do is you just give them your wish list of what you want, what you need. Now, they can't put every item in your wish list on the search criteria, because that would narrow the search down way too low, and then you may get one or two houses, or you may not even get any houses, because sometimes when we're filling out our listings, we don't always get to put in as much detail as you guys would like in finding a home. So the realtor will actually put in more basic criteria, such as area, bedrooms and baths, and maybe some specifics if you really have to have a garage or something like that, or first floor master, so that they are all in your criteria. And then what you have to do is you have to kind of sort through the emails, and your realtor will be sorting through them as well to pick out the ones that you like. Let them know which ones you like, and trust when they pick out something for you to see, because if they've been working with you, if you've been telling them what you like and where you want to be, they have specific knowledge of homes and areas, and they may know of something that you may say, well, I don't know that that's the right thing, but you might be surprised. That could actually be the one. So once you start working with a realtor and you guys are together for a while, you should trust that they can recommend for you and help you find, even if it's not the one that you picked out in the listings. So give them that benefit of the doubt, and trust that we as realtors do know what we're doing and can help find your home for you. Let me look at my little list here. I know how to do all this stuff. I just don't want to forget to tell you guys anything like that. So then as you're going through the homes, make sure that you tell the realtor what you like and don't like about the house. Now, the thing is, you got to be kind of careful about that, because nowadays, with all of the recording stuff that goes on with Alexa and Google and all of that stuff, you never know who's listening in the house. And you don't want the seller to actually be able to go back and play some kind of recording and video surveillance and know what you said and thought about their home. Now, if it's bad, then you're going to hurt somebody's feelings, and or if it's really good and you just love the house and you've gone through and you've raved about the house, how great it is, and you love it and you have to have it, then the time comes when you make an offer, you've kind of hurt your agent in their negotiating skills, because then you may offer less than the list price, and then the seller has heard on the video how much you love it, and they're thinking, well, these people are going to pay whatever because they want it so bad. Then we can just go back and say, no, we want full price, and they love this house so bad that they're going to buy it. And so you kind of shot yourself in the foot. So always wait until you're outside of the house. Either while you're walking around the yard, you can tell your realtor what you like, or if you guys are riding in the car together, you can talk about it, or afterwards you have coffee or on the phone conversation. You say, okay, this house, I like this, and this, but I didn't like that, and go through each home and let the realtor know, because in that way, if you didn't find anything on day 1 or day 2 out, but you've given them the specifics of what you did and did not like, it gives us the opportunity to be able to hone in on the search criteria and areas and homes to better fit your criteria and your needs, and make even better recommendations for the next time that we go out. So communication with your realtor is always so very important. That's the best way that they can do their job for you, is if you tell them what you don't and do like. So make sure that you're doing that. Now, the other part of that when you are going out to look at homes is if you're going out on your own. Now, I know, everybody likes to go out on Saturday or Sunday afternoon and look at open houses. Open houses are fun. You can see what everybody else does decorating wise and get ideas. And sometimes there might be a new one that just came on the market and you have to go see it. Well, if it's a resale house and your agent's not available, you can go and just make sure that you tell the agent that's sitting in that open house that you have a buyer's agent, that you're working with a realtor. Because that agent that's holding the open house, one or two things: either they are the listing agent and they represent the seller, or they're an agent that works with that company that's representing the seller, and they may be trying to get a buyer, but you already have an agency agreement with your buyer's agent, so you're tied to them. So make sure that if you go in an open house, you tell them that you have an agent already. And then if you really like the house, you come home and you call your agent and say, hey, I saw this house. I think we want to make an offer on it. You might write up an offer right then because it might be a hot listing, or you might have your agent schedule another time till you go back and take a second look. The difference is also if you go out to look at new construction. There's a lot of neighborhoods out there now where there's sale models and things like that. Many of them have a policy, not all of them, but there are some out there that have a policy. If you come and look at the house without your realtor, then they don't recognize that you have a realtor. So they're not going to pay the commission to your realtor, and they're going to want to handle the whole transaction for you if you decide that you want to make an offer on a home in that neighborhood or build one in that neighborhood. And, you know, they may let you still have your buyer agent represent you as a buyer agent, but they're not going to pay that buyer's agent. And now in that agency agreement that you sign that you will pay the buyer agent. So it says that it can be paid by the listing company or the seller. But if the listing agent or the seller aren't offering compensation, and you have this agreement and you go into a subdivision where they're not going to pay your buyer's agent because you didn't show up with them the first time, you could be liable, and you will be liable to pay that commission on top of your purchase price. So always make sure that if you're going into a new subdivision, you talk to your realtor first, because they can always call ahead and register you before you go. So if you really have to go, let them know, and they can call ahead and register you, just so that you all are protected. Because those people sitting in the sales centers, some of them aren't even realtors. They're just salespeople that work for the company. And some of them are realtors, and many of them will are great people, and they will honor your agency. I'm not saying that all of them will, because there's many of them that do honor the buyer agency agreement, even if you show up without them. And so I'm not saying that at all, but there are some, so you have to be really careful about that, because I would hate for you to get caught having to pay a buyer agency commission because you just didn't realize that you couldn't go in and look at homes, and they had you sign up, and then they said, oh, no, you can't use your realtor because you've already been here before. So then you go through, and you guys have been looking around for a while, or, you know, maybe you got lucky and the first day out you found that dream home. So then bam, there you go. You found it. You want it. So what do you do next? Next, it's time to sit down and write an offer. So there's several things to consider when you're making that offer. One of them is, how long has the house been on the market? Has it been a day? Has it been 100 days? So that would give you some reason to decide how motivated the seller is. If it's 1 day, they're motivated because they put it on the market, but they're not motivated to reduce their price if it's only been on the market 1 day. If it's been on the market 100 days, they might be a little more willing to negotiate. So that's going to give you an idea of how you do with your pricing. What's the condition of the home? Is it move-in ready, newly renovated, gorgeous, you know, hardwood floors, granite counters, gourmet kitchen, all of those things? Or is it one that's been lived in, a little tired, needs some updating, and you need to you're going to have to do some stuff? So you're going to have one that's going to get top dollar, and one that you've got some negotiating room. And if you're handy, that might be the kind of house you want to look at, because then you can go put some sweat equity into it and make it into what you want it to be, your style, and have a great house when you're done with it. The next thing that you have to consider, of course, is how much you're approved for and how much money you have for the down payment and closing costs, because you may need to ask the seller to assist you with closing. So that would be something you'd have to write into the offer. And sometimes when you have to ask for closing costs, you may not be able to reduce the purchase price as much. So there's give and take on that. And so your realtor would talk with you about that, and you guys would decide what's the best way to go. Whether you reduce the price, whether you ask for closing costs, whether you do a little of both. If it's the first day on the market and there's 10 other people that make an offer on it, you know, whether or not you're going to offer more than what it's listed for. So there's always many options on what you're going to do. The other thing you're going to look at is whether or not the price was recently reduced. You know, has it been on the market for a while? And did they just recently reduce the price? They may still be willing to reduce a little more, or they may say, we just dropped it $5,000, we can't go any lower. So you're going to have to decide, you know, okay, can you live with the new price that they put it at, or do you still need to ask for closing? All of those things that that you want to do, and those are things that you discuss with your realtor, and you guys kind of decide what price and closing you ask for, and then you put that in the contract. And the way you come up with a lot of this is you have your realtor does what's called a comparative market analysis for you, and they look at the sales in the neighborhood of comparable homes for that property, and then you can look and see if the house is priced right. So I'm going to take a minute here. I've got a couple of new people join me in. Peggy Lynch, Bob Borders, thanks guys for joining me. We're talking about working with a realtor today and what happens after you've started working with a realtor and you find the house. We're talking about making the offer and some of the items that go into writing an offer with the realtor. We just talked about some pricing options. Now we're going to talk about, once you do that, what some of the contingencies are when you write the offer. Some of the contingencies are, do you want a home inspection? And if you do, how long do you need to take to get that home inspection? I highly recommend a home inspection on every home. Now, I know there are times when people will waive a home inspection because there's multiple offers, and or they think they know what's the condition of the house is, but I personally highly recommend a home inspection because you just never know until somebody goes in the attic and crawls under the house. So and it's usually, you know, 10, 14 days, 18 days, something like that. And you and your realtor can discuss, you know, what time frame you think. And a lot of that also depends on the condition of the house and the time of the year and the time that you're making contract, because you've got it's springtime and all the home inspectors are busy. You might need a little extra time just so you can find a home inspector. And when you're making the offer, if you see obvious repairs on the house, you should go ahead and ask for them up front. Because why wait until the home inspection and then have the homeowner say no when you could have asked for some of these obvious ones, especially the big ones? Like if you see the house needs a roof, you should ask for them to replace the roof in your offer, because that's a high ticket item and it's something that could be a game changer, deal killer for you if they don't replace the roof. And if they're not willing to do it, you want to know that up front, because if you wait and you pay for a home inspection and the home inspector says the roof is on its last leg, but it doesn't say that it's completely gone, it's going to be harder. It's still in working order. So you might not be able to talk the seller into giving you a new roof. So and then you decide whether you're going to move forward with the contract or not. So that's a big item like that you should ask for up front, so that you know, and then you don't waste your money on a home inspection if there's large items that you want repaired. Like if you say it's got old windows and you think that it needs new windows throughout, that would be something that you would need to ask for up front, because that would not be a home inspection item. So those are all things that you need to do up front when you're making the offer, so that you and the seller know on the same page as to where you're going to go. Any personal property that you may want with the house, refrigerator, washer, dryer, maybe that riding lawnmower that's in the garage, curtains. We have in our contract that the blinds and the curtain rods and the brackets for the curtain rods remain, but the curtains aren't part of what remains. So if you like some curtains, so maybe they've got wallpaper and matching curtains or something like that, although we don't see that a lot anymore, well, in the older homes, but if there's some really nice you know, living room curtains that were custom made just specifically for that window that you want, make sure that those are put into the offer up front. Otherwise the seller can take them with them, and then you get to closing your walkthrough and you're like, I really wanted those. So make sure that you include those. When you want to close, you have to put a closing date or an estimated closing date in there. So you have to look at when you're going to be out of when you need to be out of where you're living now, how long it's going to take to process your loan, and you know, you might take into consideration what the seller is looking for. Your agent may have talked to the other agent and know a little bit about that. Then the appraisal. Is it going to be contingent upon the appraisal? I would, again, recommend that it always be contingent upon the appraisal, because if it's not, you could be responsible for the difference between the appraised amount and the contract price, or that becomes a negotiating point, and the seller doesn't have to reduce the price down to the appraised amount, and the deal could fall through, you know, 2 weeks into the process, because that appraisal has to be ordered within 15 days. And if you don't have the money to pay the difference and you're not willing to pay the difference, make it contingent upon the appraisal so that it gives you an option to get out of the contract. Because if you don't, and it's not contingent upon that, then you have no option to get out of the contract if the house doesn't appraise. So make sure you do that. And do you want a home warranty? We talked about a home warranty a couple of weeks ago. Do you want the seller to provide a warranty for you that will cover the house for the first year for any major electrical, plumbing, heating systems, and they'll pay for it, and then you'll just have a deductible to pay if something goes wrong with the house? And then how much earnest money deposit should you put down? That's the amount that you put down on the contract, showing the seller that you're serious about the contract, and then it's held in escrow by either the real estate company or the closing company, and then it gets applied to your closing cost at closing. And so that all depends on several things: the price of the house, how much you're going to need at closing, how competitive the offers are at the time. So those are all things that you would talk with your agent about as you're making the offer, and you guys would decide how much you want to put down as your earnest money deposit. The more you put down, the stronger your seller would see offer. Excuse me. So you can take that into consideration. So now you've made all your contingencies. You've answered all those questions in the contract. You've come up with your price, and now your agent's got the contract ready, and you've signed off on it. So they send it over to the listing agent, and they present it to the seller. So there's 3 things can happen after that. The seller can say yes, accept it exactly the way it is, sign off on it, and you've got a ratified contract, and you move forward from there. Or they can say, come back with a counteroffer, making some changes either to some of the terms, price, closing costs, closing date. Anything that they change on the contract from what you originally sent is a counteroffer. So then when they send that back, you have the option of accepting that and ratifying the contract, or making changes and sending it back to them with another counteroffer. So you guys could go back and forth several times until you come to a meeting of the minds, and then everyone has signed off on it, and you have a ratified contract. Or the third thing they could do is they could completely reject your offer. If you went in and really lowballed somebody on a house and, you know, kind of aggravated them, then they may just come back and say, no, these people are a joke. We're not going to accept this offer. It's crazy. And then you have 2 choices. You can say, okay, well, we really didn't want the house that much anyway, so we'll just go on and look for something else. Or you can say, okay, well, we were just testing the waters. We'll come back and make a more reasonable offer. Have your agent write up another offer, a different price, and hopefully better terms for the seller that would give them something to negotiate. And then submit that and see what happens. So either way, you're going to go through and see what happens. And then at some point, you're going to end up with a ratified contract. And so from there, you begin that whole process. You start with the lender, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and beginning on that. And all of the next processes and steps we're going to begin with and talk about next week when we go into what happens after you go under contract. So I want to thank you guys for watching me today. I appreciate it. This is Sandra Hayashi with Fathom Realty. And if you found this interesting or informative and would share this with anybody that you know, as I said, I've got it on my YouTube channel. As soon as I figure out how that works, I'll post it in the comments to link it to YouTube. And my website is chesterhomesearch.com. And I hope you guys all have a lovely day. Thanks. Turn off. So.